Subtitles. Whenever the conversation is about Trump, the left always says at any moment, "You'll see where this will lead." And then they go on to explain how this or that action by Trump threatens us, each of us, and the whole world. I always have one answer to that. Instead of fantasizing and speculating about the future, let's look back and see what the actions of the Trump administration, which you talked about in the past, actually led to. They said the consequences would be terrible, but were the consequences really terrible or not? That's what we're going to check. Did you apologize if it turned out that you spoke up and made so much noise for nothing, if you were wrong? Yeah, there you go. Well, all right, let's move from topic to topic. Topic 1, inflation. When Trump came to the White House in January 2025, he inherited a core inflation rate of 3.2% for the year 2024. After the introduction of tariffs on numerous goods, many experts, in fact, I would say the majority of experts, claimed that raising tariffs, increasing customs duties, would lead to inflation, and they even mentioned figures between 5 and 6% per year, while some said up to 8% per year. Imported goods would skyrocket in price, food would become unaffordable, the poor would get poorer, and so on. And the standard of living in the United States was the main thing, so to speak, the main thing that was at stake. Customs barriers in the United States of America would be significantly lowered. That's what they kept telling us all the time. Gasoline prices are dropping every month. Gasoline is okay. Food prices haven't gone up. But the wages of American hired workers have increased. Inflation goes up to 3%. It always happens simply because of the way our country is set up. If the feds, so to speak, the federal bank, had lowered the rate, it would have been even less. However, as I mentioned, salaried workers' earnings have increased. And taking into account the increase in salaries, the standard of living has risen. Over the past 6 months, American standard of living has risen, subtitle editor, and it didn't decrease as we were predicted, to be continued. Those who, in my opinion, want bad things for America simply because they want Trump to suffer. It didn't stay the same, and the standard of living could have as well. I would say, well, look, it's significantly better than you thought, but it has increased. To be continued. So one prediction didn't come true. The second one, illegals. We were told that illegals are necessary for America. Why? Many jobs, like agricultural ones, are often refused by United States citizens. We were told this repeatedly. So much so that a huge number of my acquaintances, who are theoretically, so to speak, on the right side, that is, to the right of center, as they say. Yes, conservative people and foolish ones and so on, also nodded their heads and said, "What are we going to do with our agriculture? No one will go to work for that kind of money." Topic 2. Illegals are necessary for America to be continued working for such a salary. What happened? Since January 2025, 1.7 million illegals have lost their jobs, and most of them have self-deported. Has a catastrophe happened? Oh my God, 1.7 million have left. It's all over. Everything's finished. Nothing of the sort. 1.2 million United States citizens who were previously living on taxpayer subsidies have found jobs. And A, they work instead of illegal immigrants. B, they don't take from the common fund like before, but on the contrary, they contribute to the country's social system. So, things have improved. Nothing stopped, and things got better. The second prediction fell apart, as they say, into dust, into ashes, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Topic 3, the stock exchange. Very smart, by the way, and educated and human-like people were speaking, including our own native idiots and scoundrels. An idiot is someone who doesn't understand anything himself but repeats other people's statements with a smart look, and a scoundrel is someone who knows the truth but lies. So, are you in it for the money or for a place under the sun? So, Trump's trade policy, his Canadian escapade, his quarrels with Europe, his war with China, we were told all of this would crash our stock market. And people who had, well, let's say money invested in stocks and pension funds would become poor. They saved all their lives, tried to put money aside, and Trump would make them destitute. Did millions of Americans go bankrupt as we were predicted? So what about the oracles and prophets? Starting January 2025, the S&P includes our major companies and large enterprises. By August 20, that is, from January 20 to August 20, they grew by 13.5 to 13.8%. This is striking and amazing. NASDAQ. This stock exchange of technology companies and enterprises has grown by 3,000 points, which is about 12 to 15%. The industry in the United States as a principle has grown by 12%. The stocks of American enterprises are not just growing, they're breaking through the roof, all kinds of ceilings. Those who own stocks have become richer, that is, not poorer and not the same. Not poorer and not the same, but richer. And for some, significantly more. It's not that they cheated or did anything wrong, their pension fund just invested wisely. What do you think? Can this be called the third defeat of the ill-wishers? Fourth, immigration. I remember very well how Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, Hillary, Obama, and all the rest of them, they kept saying they needed to address the refugee flow, but they actually organized it and exaggerated the numbers by 10 times. It can only be done by passing new immigration laws. They kept saying that the Republicans in Congress wouldn't let them pass this law. So the same thing was said by Obama, Bush, Carter, and other incompetent presidents. In 1924, people entered the United States without asking or permission. From 2.5 to 3 million people are those recorded by our border service, and probably another million slipped through, yes. That is about 300,000 per month. They came in, crawled, flew, maybe even drove in. In June of 25, only 6 months had passed, and 6,700 people tried to cross. Let me remind you, before that it was 300,000 people a month in July, 4,598 in August, 2,024 people. All of them were detained. Most of them were immediately sent back, some with a steel boot to the tailbone. By the way, for your information, subtitles. More than 350,000 children entered the United States without adults. There were 16, 17-year-olds and younger kids among them. They needed to be given to someone, since you can't just release a child to us or let anyone take them. So someone took in those 350,000 children. But there is absolutely no information about how many children were given to whom, why they were given to these people, and so on. That's it. 8 of them were recently found on a marijuana plantation as slaves. It seems that many of them have the same fate or even much worse. I can tell you a few more things where it's much harder to work, especially since their lives are worth nothing. 3 kopecks. Without a new law, critics said, Trump, who claims he will stop the flow of migrants into the United States, won't succeed. A new law wasn't needed, said Donald J. Trump. What was needed was a new president. They kept scaring us over and over, but with us, if a guy says it, he does it. And that's despite the outcry from all the members of the Democratic Party, the quiet haters of the Republican Party, a perfectly organized system for recruiting, training, bringing in illegals to the United States and settling them in the necessary districts. It's like another victory, despite all the obstacles and barriers they built. Piataya, do you know him? District of Columbia, so we have 50 states plus the District of Columbia. Basically, criminals, walked around as they wanted, where they wanted, and when they wanted. That is, crime in the capital is consistently higher than the United States average, and the level of violent crime is twice as high as the national average. Nice. We have a great capital. In 2024, 3,400 were registered. I don't remember how many additional serious crimes there were on top of that. My friend said they were scared to walk around the city in the evening, unless in groups. There was no question of walking from home to a bar or from a bar back home in the city center, And that's even though the city's police budget in 2024 was $506 million, half a billion. August 11 subscribe. Trump has just declared a state of emergency in the District of Columbia. I want to say again that we have 50 states, and this is a district. It has a separate federal status. That's why presidents and federal agencies can act much more freely there and do things than they can in each of the 50 states. So he declared a state of emergency. This is not a sovereign state. And what came with this state of emergency? The president has the right to intervene in local self-government. The Washington police were temporarily removed from local authority control and placed under federal command. Only 800 guardsmen and some FBI agents were added. I mean, guys in plain clothes who were walking around the streets. By the way, in the city, 90% vote for the Democratic Party. It's a city of officials. Well, there are officials there. All of them live better when the Democrats are in power, and we, the producers, live better when the Republicans are in power. And the officials, because they have more, they take more from us. That's all. So when Trump, first of all, took the police under his control and secondly brought in 800 National Guardsmen, then what? The press exploded with cries about chaos, lawlessness, a power grab, tyranny, completely forgetting that this has happened many times in the history of the United States of America. 10 days passed, gentlemen. Not 4 years, just 10 days under Biden. And street murders and robberies stopped happening in the city. Other crimes fell 20%. There were some crimes that went up. Well, people who, so to speak, couldn't rob on the street anymore now started stealing things in stores or, doing something else. There and now. Car theft was terrible. Car theft was terrible. You just leave your car, walk away, boom, it's already gone. Yes, it decreased by 40%. No, it dropped a lot. It decreased by 40%, but that's just in 10 days. By the way, the homeless were removed from the city center, from parks, and from building entrances. So despite the outcries about usurpation and lofta, the city's residents are happy. And very quietly so that no one would hear, thanking Trampa for this significant improvement in their lives. Based on Washington's results, it was clear within 10 days this was a success. 19 states will get the National Guard to help the police. That is, permission, so to speak, to use National Guardsmen. Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles receive special attention. Also, the Olympic Games will be held in Los Angeles soon. And what's happening here now, the Olympic Games can't take place in this condition, yes. So, according to Trump, crime is especially high in these 3 cities. Well, actually, there are 10 cities where crime is higher. Well, like St. Louis and so on, etc. Chicago is 11th. Los Angeles, I think, is 11th too. They're together, right now. So these 10 cities with the highest crime rates have one thing in common, one shared feature. They all have Democratic mayors and city councils, not a single Republican. Out of the first 12, I think so, yes. Chicago, Los Angeles. They share the 11th and 12th places in the ranking of the most dangerous cities in America. As soon as Trump deals with these gang-ridden neighborhoods, you'll see how people in these cities will start leaving the Democratic Party in droves and joining Trump's party. And I think that next time there are mayoral elections, it will be a different story there. But Russian-speaking and humanoid people don't talk about this in their podcasts. Why? Was there no order? Because whoever feeds them is the one who makes them dance. You could call this another victory for Trump. I mean, Washington, of course. And even if the capital's crime rate stays the same, it's still 20% lower than elsewhere. This is in addition to inflation, illegal immigration, the stock market surge, and everything else I'm about to talk about. You think so, Trump? I have this strange question. Do you think Trump is dumb, cowardly, uneducated, always saying and doing stupid things like the Democrats keep telling us? Or maybe, after all, he's not as stupid as they paint him to be. In April of this year, Trump declared the Day of Independence of the United States from onerous agreements with international trade partners. Before that, we had a 2.5% tax on cars imported by the European Union, just to pay for the inspection and other things. That is our own expense. When importing our cars into the European Union, you paid at least 10% or more on American cars. That's why you won't find our cars in the European Union, Japan, South Korea, or in many other countries. We began making automobiles. Ford figured out how to do it cheaply. It all started here. They do everything they can to keep us out because they know that when we compete, we do better than our competitors. When we just sit in our own puddle, but when we compete, we do better than our competitors. So basically, besides the fact that they were taking 10% or more from us for the cars, they, along with all these countries, the European Union, and those Asian countries I mentioned, also came up with environmental safety certificates. So we have all sorts of other principles there, so what should we be producing and doing in the United States of America? Our cars simply didn't fit their requirements, but we tried to get closer to them. But every time they found something that made it impossible to import goods that competed with theirs. Well, I mean, we opened the gates for goods from Europe in a friendly way. Never, said the Europeans, will we change our policy. And it doesn't matter that it's dishonest and ungrateful. But we've gotten used to them and we're not going to change anything. We talked. They realized that their goods would be subject to high tariffs, so they signed the agreement. What a fool Trump is, right? He made the liver union give up tariffs and other barriers and let American agricultural products, chemicals, medicines, and all kinds of electronics into their countries. The liver union also signed that they would invest $600 billion in the United States. That's Trump for you. Stupid, you noticed? Plus, they committed to buying gas and oil from the United States for $750 billion. Well, that's over the next 10 years. Stupid, dumb, uneducated Trump. If only Gordon or Shvets were president. If Bykov or Shenderovich were negotiating. If both Larionov and Rashkin were leading the government, Europe would have bought not $750 billion worth of energy resources, but at least $760 billion. We made a mistake choosing Trump over Rashkin. South Korea editor agreed to fully open the market for United States goods. Subtitle editor. A. Yagorova. Well, naturally, also within 10 years. And we charge them, they don't charge us anything, but we take 15% from any goods they import. That's how foolish Trump is. They want to trade on the best market in the world, pay up Japan, an agreement to lower tariffs on American goods. Did Trump have any mileage? There were probably some mistakes. The gas issues still haven't been settled. Ukraine and Russia are still at war with each other. But the war between Pakistan and India has practically been stopped, without escalating into a wider phase. The war in Africa, which claimed 6 million lives over 30 years, has ended. The hostilities between Azerbaijan and Armenia have ended, and Thailand and Cambodia are not fighting each other. Calling Trump stupid based on his actions, well, you can, of course, you might say, it's my tongue, I can say whatever I want. But if you pause for a second and tell yourself, I should be at least somewhat honest and decent, which, as you understand, many of our patriots aren't even close to telling themselves, it's very hard to call him stupid. He demonstrates insight, the ability to mobilize resources, and consistently motivates his subordinates, acting in a set direction. This is the quality of a true, serious leader. I would say that Trump is a genius, just as Archimedes, Tesla, Galileo, and Einstein were geniuses, not to be confused with Epstein, and probably as Jefferson, Madison, Adam Smith, and Thomas Paine were geniuses. The author, or at least the inspiration behind our Declaration of Independence. That's why it's hard for ordinary people with simple, everyday thinking to understand him. Imagine that the World Chess Championship is taking place, to be continued. And one of the precedents. Only two remain, the world's best. One will become the absolute best. That's it. Suddenly, he makes an unexpected move, which, let's say, neither Alyokin nor Casablanca ever made in such a situation. All the experts, analysts, critics, and so on immediately explain through the media and on every page, on every forum, what to do next. The fool has only 4 moves left. In 4 moves, he'll lose, but he wins. This move, this combination goes down in chess history. But when he plays the next game and again makes a move that, from their point of view, is wrong, it's called a move in chess. Yes, then the same fools start howling again, but he wins again. But you need to tell critics they're not fools. They can't admit being wrong 2, 3, 8, or 14 times. How are they experts if they keep making mistakes? And so they make up all sorts of stories like the opponent was drugged, or it was a fixed match, or the weather conditions, and so on. Anything to avoid admitting that they're nowhere near being a genius. Oh, not even close. And then comes the 3rd, the 10th, the 100th move. And every time they say, look, he's stupid, he's going to lose now. And they dream of him losing. Even if it means that the country, the people themselves, their children will suffer, they dream of him losing. Continuation, I'll say and do anything just so that he suffers. Continuation, so that things go badly for him. There, even the Lord, every time when they tell you, well, see what nonsense he said again. And this will definitely lead, this time, it will definitely lead to terrible consequences. Please, don't be nervous. I really ask you, tell yourself, I've already heard 100 times that he made a mistake, and then it turns out that They also didn't understand what this brilliant mind was doing. Based on the fact that out of 30 planned projects, he has already successfully completed 15 and hasn't failed a single one yet. Well, so far. Everything he managed to do, everything he promised, it's in progress, it's either already achieved or in progress. So far, his results are amazing. Again, let's remember inflation, migration, trade agreements, and 5 wars that have been stopped. All over the globe, trillions in investments from the Middle East are spread out. The creation of the World Artificial Intelligence Center in the United States, the relocation of hundreds of enterprises from abroad to our territory. Tell yourself, I believe, to be continued, that since Trump to be continued has done so many amazing things to be continued, and I haven't seen the result yet. To be continued, to be continued, to be continued, to be continued, to be continued. Like that fool who shouldn't be shown half the work exactly. I won't be that fool who can't be shown half the work because I'm not a genius. I'll wait. And now I'm sure you're asking, why is today's report called Trump Ukraine Weapons? Because that's what many of you are concerned about. You're afraid, you're worried and anxious that Trump will step aside without solving this problem. If you haven't figured it out from the previous Trump, you can't predict him. Even when it seems to us, oh my God, everything is terrible, it later turns out that it's not. But actually, it was a win. It's us. Well, at least I don't know about you. I'm not a genius, and well, I don't understand anything. In Epstein's formula, wait, I just confused Epstein with Einstein. Never mind. MC squared and equals MC squared. I have no idea what that could possibly mean. Moreover, I don't know how the little funny people get into the television. And I don't understand why airplanes, which are heavier than air, don't fall to the ground. More calm down. So far, Trump, everything he completed was 100 out of 100 and 100 out of 100 good. It can't always be the way we dream it to be. But I say this responsibly, relax. Trump will do everything as it should be to solve all the difficult situations he has taken on, even though he could have chosen not to. Ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We have a fantastic president. God bless him with good health so that he lasts for 4 years. And then to mentor someone who would continue his work. Maybe at first he will help him. God bless him. God bless us. God bless America. God bless the world.